This is Adjuster Stories, brought to you by Adjuster TV and Veteran Adjusting School. And now your host, Guy Grand.
Welcome to Adjuster Stories with Guy Grand. I'm here today talking with Will, who is, when did you graduate? You graduated during COVID,
Oh, man.
didn't you?
Yeah, it was 2020.
Yeah, July or November?
I think it's close to September, October.
Yeah, you were in the last class. The one I always tell everybody, you're not going to go to work when you leave the class. Right?
Well, no, that actually, it turned out you shook my hand, gave me the certificate, and walked around the corner and got a call from one of your partners. And,
Oh, that's right.
Went right to work. So
Right.
I even skipped the big party after class.
Oh, that's right.
I got right on the road and went to Louisiana and started working.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Vass was expensive. I had to get my money back somehow.
right.
Didn't take long.
Well, exactly. Thank you to the federal government too. For both of us, you and me, for sure. So you did what? 22 years in the Army? Yeah.
22. Yeah.
And you
Did I was a mechanic mostly, and then the last 4 or 5 years I was writing government contracts, kind of.
Gotcha.
And
When'd you exit?
2018.
2018.
Yeah.
What'd you do before you found us?
Well, I took I was unemployed after the Army for about 5 days, and I went to Lockheed Martin. Oh, was that name acceptable? I went to a defense contractor. I worked for a major defense contractor, and in the maintenance arena, fixing stuff over in Afghanistan, and did that I stayed there 466 days straight. Actually, I didn't take a day off, didn't come home, nothing.
Wow.
I only came home when everything was paid off, and
And
I came back and chilled a while and went fishing, and I did some census work. That's what I was doing. I quit them and came to your school.
Gotcha. And do you have kids?
Yeah, I got 2 kids. One's graduated ECU last year, and one's a senior this year.
Gotcha.
Mechanical engineering. So hopefully things work out for him.
At least mom has good genes, so the brain.
Exactly.
The brain's in the family, right? It's interesting. Before we get started on everything about adjusting, that you guys that did your 20 years in the military and then got out, right? Because you were away from your family. You just said 400 and something days. One of the things that I know, I said this in your class too, is that, if you've been away from your family that much, trying to become a CAD adjuster doesn't always work. Right. And so, a lot of times, if the family's set up for that and they works for that, that's great. But a lot of times, like in class, we always used to say, go out and run some day claims, be around your family until you get all that together. So,
it depends on the dynamic too, though, Guy. I mean, sometimes I'm sure Joy is eager to get rid of me sometimes.
Yeah. That was the same with Cheryl.
She needs a break as much as I do.
I'd get done with 6 months of storm duty, and I'd come home and I'd be like, yeah, honey, I'm home. And within a month, she'd be like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm going hiking with my buddies in the Red Rocks. And she was like, you need to go back out on a storm. I'm like, and then I'd come home and the house would be painted a chartreuse freaking ugly color I would never allow, and there'd be walls on the bed. And I'm like, yeah, well, at least I must be making enough money for you to go out and buy new stuff, honey. That's all.
Right.
But
new picket fence.
We worked her hard for 12 years, so it's good.
Well, she was amazing.
Yeah.
She's focused and on it.
Yeah, and she's the reason the school was the success it was, because she's the one that took care of all the VA and Board of Education and you guys as
I'm quite grateful to her, actually.
Yeah, the den mother, and she was really good. She's really good about placing people in houses together too. So
yeah, I'd say.
Yeah. Although you had some kind of weirdos in your house too. So
No, they were good. They were good.
yeah. So what do you want to talk about today, man?
Um, I think some of the notes we had talked about before,
Uh-huh.
I guess just getting started and uh, one of the major firms here during this last storm, they put out a feeler. They were only wanting seasoned adjusters, just seasoned adjusters. I mean, that's okay for me,
Right.
but yeah, I ended up not going with them. But I was thinking that really does affect some of the new guys coming along,
Right.
and I mean, there's programs out there to make sure that they're vetted and qualified, and they can, be successful on, first 2 or 3 days, with a little hand holding maybe.
Right.
But one thing I've been doing, it's kind of just, I don't know, I looked at it as kind of a way to get back,
Uh-huh.
because before I found you guys, I'd already decided I was going to try to do the adjusting thing, and yeah, I ended up calling a public adjuster. I didn't know the difference. Saying, hey, yeah, can I help you? Can I go inspect for you? And he's like, oh man, that'd be awesome, but you really don't know what you're doing.
Yeah,
You,
exactly.
yeah, you trip all over yourself.
I called a
Um,
public adjuster when I was trying to get my license too, because I had no idea what a public adjuster was. And
yeah,
then I read a little bit about it and I was like, oh, they help the insured. That's great. And then I started
yeah,
talking to
yeah,
him. And I'm like, yeah, that's not exactly what I'm looking to do.
yeah. And there's a lot more work that has to go into that. A lot of cradle to grave type
Yeah,
of
and
claims handling.
you're the project manager, you're the salesman, you're the everything with
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
But you got to sell things like from multiple angles. I mean, you've got to sell your service to the homeowner first, I guess, and
right,
that's the easiest to sell, I'm sure.
right.
Um, yeah, anybody could sell that cake, but um, uh, but the selling of the estimate and the reasons why your estimate is the price it is got to be a crazy sell.
Yeah,
I mean, they deal with people like us after they're uh, after they uh, do get their initial sale done, and then they're trying to push it, and you've got to go over every activity code. I mean, those things mean something.
yeah,
The ampersand or the plus or the minus, or
yeah.
they'll split it up, and was there a minus on the mitigation estimate? Was a plus on this one? Why is there a remove and replace on this one when it
Yeah,
was remove was done on the other one? And I'm sure they get over it. Not everybody is like that. And I've actually run across some very scrupulous PAs, and I mean, I've got respect for them.
uh-huh.
Um,
There's a
yeah, I
reason
mean,
for them.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Not so much the ambulance chaser
yeah,
PA
yeah,
that's down in Florida, or and I should
yeah,
just say Florida, but that's just running out, bad mouthing the insurance
yeah,
adjusters and everything. So we end up with the adversarial role when we show up to that. It's kind of
yeah.
uh,
I chop the knees out from under that though every time. I mean, I learned from this one guy. You might have heard of him, Guy Grand. He was like, "Hey, we're both looking for the same thing. We're both
right.
trying to help the insured," and that's how I approach it. I mean, there's going to be some differences, and I tell people I will do anything I can for you, as long as it's not crossing any ethical boundaries, and as long as I'm inside of those, then let's have a talk about those activity codes. Let's have a talk about the work that's actually performed or the right way to do it.
Right.
I'm eager to. I mean, I learned a lot from PAs.
Yeah.
If everybody dreads them, no, I love working with them.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
and, I
yeah,
think that's one of the things for newer adjusters. They view the PA and they view the contractor as an adversary when they're not adversaries. They're just
yeah,
guys out trying to make a buck. So how do we make it work for everybody?
right,
And
right,
you know, and like you said, there's a lot of really scrupulous adjusters or PAs out there that will literally when you sit down with them, you say, this is this and this is how it is. And they say, well, did you see that? Well, okay, I can give you that. That
yeah,
that makes sense. But the things that make sense, and what it costs to get the job done is the job. And I already know you need 20%. So
Yeah,
we got to figure that part out.
I think a lot of that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Actually, I'm probably indebted to this career. Indebted to an unknown PA. Just a story of one.
Uh-huh.
I was back in that lull after I quit the defense contractor world, and I was looking for something else, and just fishing a lot, drinking, day drinking, and I've signed up for just anybody that needs a sailing hand. I didn't know much about sailboats, but I jumped on got on this website to crew sailboats, and put my name out there, and somebody called me. They're like, "Hey, I need a hand, staying up watch. Look, I'll set the autopilot. You just make sure we don't hit an iceberg." But
going where?
And it's to Rhode Island. That's where I was getting off, but he picked me up here in North Carolina. Jumped on a 50-foot Beneteau. Did my 4-hour watch. We'd switch off.
Wow.
Took a little food. Yeah. But and it was interesting, informative. Good guy. A little weird, he liked to do his Tai Chi in the mornings, for his exercise, get his flow, get his Zen right. I don't know. Maybe it helped out with the wind vectors or something. But hey, we got there safe.
Right.
But, yeah.
And he was a PA?
No. The boat that he was on, the previous boat he had, was in a lot, getting some work done to it. And the boat next to it burned down, which also burned his boat. He filed an insurance claim. Insurance says it'll be quite a while before we can get to you. Have some issues. He's like, I found this one guy that wouldn't. He approached me. He said, for 10%. I used to work for the insurance company. It's a classic thing the PA says.
Yeah.
I used to work for the insurance company. I know how they do it. I can get you better, the most money for your claim and get it quickly. So he did. He got him his money kind of quick, and by knowing what to say, when to say it. And that was kind of what pushed me to look into this more.
Right. Did you do training before you found us, or did you literally come to us?
No, I was reaching out trying to find it. There's the internet's full of stuff, but it wasn't quite as prevalent back in 2020 as it is now.
Right.
Or the online presence of adjusting. I mean, it's grown quite a bit. But going back to the new adjusters, how does somebody get started? And like the whole give back thing I was talking about was, I reached out to Matt and said, hey, if you got anybody down in this area, this for daily claims, I said, if you need somebody down here that wants a ride along, then I'll put them in the truck with me, and they can type, they can sit in the passenger seat, and I'll be like, hey, all right, go to Xactimate, estimate items. Second one, sketch, take a look at it. Okay, go to estimate items. All right, well, I could tell them the macro, or we could build a macro. RFG 80 RMB, and hit tab 3 times. SQ. Why is SQ? What's the calculation there? I'm like, oh, that's a great question. Go hit variables over here. Now you see that everything listed in that variable list is a shortcut for you. You just have to know how to use it and what it is. So.
And these were guys that came out of Matt's fast track to deployment stuff.
Yeah. There's a couple of them.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, I think I've got one more has reached out to me. He's working on his license now, but he's living in Georgia. He might come up and run a couple claims. But Nice. Similar guys in facilities maintenance, doing his thing. You'll probably know who he is when he hears this, but he's um, facilities maintenance. He's pretty sharp, well spoken. I don't think there's going to be any issue with his presentation to an insured.
Uh-huh.
I'll call my boss and tell him, hey, I got somebody coming with me on a couple of claims today. Got any issue with it? Okay, and I've already vetted the guy. No criminal history or anything.
Right.
But the boss does reserve the right to run a background check on him. If
for sure. So before I started the school, when I was taking people with me, there was a year that I was working for like the biggest carrier.
Yeah.
And they didn't like people riding along with you. Yeah. So we went on an entire storm, and he would never come out of the hotel room, right? While I was still training him, but I couldn't take him on the claims with me or anything like that. But most of the time when I was doing similar stuff, I'd let the firm know, hey, I've got a guy here. He's licensed. This is my relative or whatever it is. Can I take them? And almost always they said yes. Don't let them talk to the insured.
Right.
Yeah. And I ran, my godson ran with me for 2 years, got his first claim when he was 20. So he barely had hair on his chin. And when he would go up and talk to these, 50, 60-year-old insureds, he could parrot everything I said for 2 years. I mean, I didn't even know he learned it all, but he would say exactly the same thing. And people would look at him and go, how long you been doing this? And he'd be like,
exactly.
When I can start shaving, I'll let you know. So it's a valuable lesson to help people coming in and giving back. So kudos to you for that. For sure.
Just trying to help out.
Did any of them turn out good?
Yeah. No names, but
yeah.
Gave one a shot down here. He was former ladder assist actually, and he's much faster typist than I do. He's very clerically proficient, and I recognize that immediately. So I showed him how I do claims on my steering wheel,
right,
and rode him around, and he actually lives pretty close to me. So I mean, he's taken up some of the business, but there's plenty around here. Coastal environments are just goodness. Right. There's a lot of work here.
Right.
So I don't mind sharing, and plus, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
Everybody, I think that Matt accepts them in the program, and they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Or at least have some potential. I'm sure there's a bad apple here and there.
And they're dedicated. The difference between Voss and and what Matt does and stuff like that is you guys were vetted by Cheryl for
were we ever?
Hours, and she was able to tell when she was talking to people on the telephone, this is going to be a good fit. This person is committed. And that's why, we were so successful, is everybody that showed up that was butting a seat was committed to being there. So it made it so much easier for us to be able to convey that information to you guys. It was, made it much.
And I loved your attitude about it too. I mean, it's like, you're what was it, 20 grand or something? It's like, I'm not even worried about that. If you could show up here with 20 grand and, you'd turn them away, but are you dedicated? Have you exhibited that dedication by getting your license ahead of time, by,
the ILX and all the rest of the stuff that you had to do.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And I thought that was so silly. Cause I mean, for me, I just got a great meaning, and it really did help me too. I mean, I've been no stranger to a hammer and a nail.
Right.
I could take a speed square and cut you a jack rafter to a door header if I had to, but I mean,
but
I get it.
So many people that weren't that, At least when everybody got there, I knew you had some sort of a basis to start from.
Right.
For sure.
But the good thing about that ILX training is it made sure everybody was using the same vocabulary, the construction vocabulary.
Correct.
And, whether or not that was, dead on or how it is colloquially, region by region, it still put you on the same playing field. So you're comparing apples to apples when you're talking to a potential fire reviewer that has never even picked up a hammer.
Yeah, for sure.
Never heard that S-wing sing.
And that's one of the things I think, as new adjusters get into the field that maybe don't know construction, but they think this is going to be a great deal, right? Without getting that additional training so you understand, right, what the terminology is and stuff like that is critical. I know a lot of people get in this business, they get a license, they think they're an adjuster because they got a license, which is definitely not true. And then they just show up thinking that, well, I saw online I'm supposed to have a ladder, or what's an Xactimate when they get there. I did during Hurricane Irma, I did an orientation, and the company that wanted me to go out there was like, okay, so, you got 3 days to make these guys adjusters. I'm like, no freaking way, not going to happen. And the first thing I'm going to say to them all is, and I literally spent 3 days, Will, just showing them how to organize. I couldn't even get to Xactimate. It was just, I know when this is over, you're going to get 100 files. What are you going to do with those 100 files? How are you going to breathe through just that part?
Thank you for that, guy. Thank you. The method that you showed decreases stress levels so much. I'm sorry. I hope you didn't think I was interrupting there.
Nope,
it's right. That's the decrease in stress just from the organization that you taught us, which I've modified over the years. I mean, I found something that works for me a little better, but instrumental.
Yeah,
and I mean, I did hang out with an Airbnb with a couple of more seasoned adjusters, and they're like, man, why do you write that stuff down? Why are you taking so much time to do it? And I don't anymore. I do it a different way. I still write down some of the stuff enough to make sure that I'm tracking, but that set it up where there were the mistake rate for scheduling was nothing.
Right.
I mean, and that's, you've got to be reliable. And that's number one.
And everybody's going to find out what works for them. But when you're starting out, and that's, we started with the basics.
Yeah.
So here's the old school way. No, we're not using all the tech. We're going the old school way. Writing this stuff down, calling these people up, doing this kind of stuff, making these manila files. Do you even use manila file folders?
Not anymore, but it hurts
exactly.
Me not to. It hurts me not to. Yeah.
Right. But that file folder 1 through 31, all of those things, just because there's so much going on when you have a claim, whether it's a day claim or a storm claim, especially storm though. There's just so many moving parts that if you're not organized at that beginning, then things go south really quick.
Now, I've learned to tabletop them, most of them now. So that takes off some of the back end organization, because then it's all automated after I turn it in.
Yeah.
And man, I don't know what it is, but I just brain dump after I turn the file in. Like, they can call back later. I mean, even a review question, I'm like, oh, what house was that? Oh God. And I gotta see the front picture of the house before it all clicks back in, because I mean, we're memory is tied to visual images with action and emotion. And it kind of helps, to mnemonic, but I have to see that house in order to get back into that file. Once I do, I'm walking through the files. I know exactly what everything is, but I got to see it first.
Yeah. You could, once you know where you were a year ago, you can go to that house. And a lot of times I've had insurers call up, they were looking for recoverable, get their recoverable and stuff. And they'd say, hey guy, do you remember me? I'm like, dude, you're like
I'll do it in a
500.
minute.
You're 500 claims behind. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Well, I had that old Mustang in the garage.
The
Boom, right there. All of a sudden, I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, and you had the damage
blue
on
and the
yeah,
80s box Mustang,
yeah.
when they switched over the body type and everybody thought it was ruined, but now the classics, yeah.
Exactly. And I remember you had gutter damage on the right hand side, right? And did you get that fixed? And just to exactly what you're saying, just being able to or seeing that house. I had a
Yeah.
I had a claim once, it was like 3 years later, it went to court. And the company, you're not supposed to keep all your stuff, right? But the company calls me up and they say, we had this is the insured's name. So I went back through my external drive and I found the name and I opened it up and I saw the risk, just like you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that entire claim came back to my brain.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, no, that didn't happen.
Like, no, they didn't even have drip edge though.
Yeah, they didn't do that. No, that isn't correct. So yeah, for sure. It's but that comes with muscle memory too, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just repetition, 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 and now you've moved on to your own process and how your process benefits you better.
Yeah.
If you remember in class, I wouldn't allow you to have another process. You only did it one way.
And that's good. I mean, because there's something to be said for the process that you developed. I mean, just trust it. I mean, you've said it 100 times. Well,
Trust
probably.
the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next one of 100. But
one of the things too for me, since I've retired, so to speak, is just how can we really help the industry? And we're like actually working on a condensed form of the process to be able to take it out there. So well, I'll talk to you about that offline.
Yeah, a condensed version of the vast process, downloadable matrix style in under 30 seconds. Yeah,
exactly. But
how much RAM do I need for that?
Yeah. Not too much. 8 gigabytes will be fine.
All right.
8 gigabytes. But one of the things with closing the school is we have so much content. I mean, after 12 years, Jesus, dude, I got something for everything. And so, I know that there's still benefits and Scott's back out there file reviewing right now.
God bless Scott.
Isn't he?
Oh my goodness.
Right? He's a great instructor.
Man, I called back and talked to him. I'd been out of school for like a year and a half. And I was like, hey, Scott, I remember you talking something about a fire macro or something. He's like, stand by. All right. Check your email. And I'm like, oh my goodness. How does this dude, this dude's a machine.
Yeah.
I mean, how does he come up with all that stuff and put it into something? And it all makes sense. Everything's, I'm like, goodness gracious. I mean,
yeah. So
the dude's a brain. He's a brain for sure.
He is. And he's young and I love him. And I'm like, okay, so let's figure out another little thing that you can do. I'm really, really blessed, Will, that Cher and I are good.
Yeah.
So there isn't any more, I need to make $1 or anything else. I'm just like, life is good. I'm making it to the end. It's all, whatever I do from here on out is just because I want to be there to help others.
Right on.
Just like you.
Thank you again. Thanks again, man. I mean, you really did change my life, actually. This whole thing. I mean, I knew it was a commitment.
Right.
Everybody's like, well, that's expensive. It's 6 weeks. Are you serious? I'm like, look, man, there's potential in it. I don't know exactly on the other side of the fence what that potential is, but I'm just going for it. And, if I got to reset after 6 weeks, I just got to reset after 6 weeks.
And you literally went straight to Storm.
Yes. I left the graduation ceremony after the pictures and started packing. Everybody else is planning a big party. What are we going to do for tonight? It's on, guys. Hey, we're adjusters now. We're vast graduates. And I was like, well, You guys take care.
I gotta
I started
go.
driving that night and drove all the way through.
Wow. How
Got
many
to,
claims
got
did
to,
you? How many claims did you get?
oh my God, that's embarrassing. 17 actually was all I did
Uh-huh.
on that first storm. And, I think I told you, I called you from the parking lot from the help room for who I was working with. And I was just about to quit. I mean, I was going to leave my vast computer on the table and just go and just not come back. And I was like, oh. So I went in there. I didn't know who to call. I called Guy Grand and he answered the phone. Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, yeah,
And so since then though, are you still running storms? You run mostly
oh
dailies
yeah,
though,
yeah.
don't you?
I did a lot of dailies last year. Really weren't any significant storm events last year,
Right.
but yeah, this year I went down to Helene and Milton.
In
So,
Florida or
yeah, so I did
because you're in North or South Carolina?
North Carolina, but just above the line.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Because there was a lot of work there too.
yeah. There's the whole coast is there's you can get work here.
Yeah.
One of the main carriers here that's state specific is they only hire seasoned adjusters. Well, most of the firms that work with them will only let. I don't know what kind of backdoor agreement it is, but it took 2 years before I could ever start working for them. And after that, I kind of see why they do it. Um, uh, they only hire seasoned adjusters because they actually put faith in the field adjuster.
Yes, sir.
I mean, your word is it's got to be right,
Right.
or and they'll normally trust you unless you really do jack it up.
Yeah.
But I kind of appreciate that. They're a
Well,
little harder to deal with, a little harder to put a file through, but and they take it. Especially if you've lined everything out and keep it with the way you teach.
right.
The workflow, the diagram, the diagram, the flow chart of how things are supposed to
Yeah.
go. Um, as long as everything matches up and it makes sense, doesn't make the check writing authority puke, then you're golden.
And are you allowed to actually speak to the insured about what you saw and that kind of stuff with this carrier?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And a lot of other carriers, they're like, hey, the field adjuster can't, we don't want you to talk scope with them, scope of repair. This is just what you're doing. It's the guidelines and nothing but the guidelines. I'm like, oh,
Yeah. Well, that's because of they don't have the experience.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So the ones that are solid and set that you have to have 2 years experience.
Kicker.
Right.
Yeah.
So and it makes sense. Like on a big hurricane, Milton, for instance, if 1,000 adjusters went there, 500 of them just had their license. So I do not want you speaking to anybody because you don't have a clue of what you're speaking about.
Right, right.
Whereas you go down there with that same company and you're like, what do you mean I can't speak to these people? I need to tell them what's going on and how and what the process is. But
there's so much learning that you have to do in this industry based upon the inverse of what you're seeing.
yeah.
So I mean, whatever empirical criteria you're judging, there's an inverse influence that's prevalent but hard to really grasp.
Yeah.
You get reading between the lines is what I'm trying to say. A lot of reading between the lines has to happen if you really want to get a handle on what it is, or you can just shut up and color. Just do what you're told and keep cashing the checks. But
and as a new guy, that's what you need to do until you get the experience to be able to
yeah, I don't know how I made it in the Army because I'm never good at doing what I'm told.
You were for the most part pretty good in class anyway.
I had to fake it. I didn't want you to kick me out. But.
Yeah, exactly. Just kept your mouth shut. Smart idea. But it really, it goes back to that whole training stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And we were fortunate because our partners knew coming out of the class that you could turn a file. So the reason you left directly from school and went to a storm and got 17 claims, they didn't give you 50, they gave you 17. Okay, let's see what this guy, you were a brand new adjuster in the field. But at least they knew you had a process to follow and you had organization and you had the things that you needed to have. So for us, it was awesome because they waived that 2 to 4 year work experience, which by 2 years later, you have tons of work experience. So yeah, we were really fortunate. I mean, we had guys that went out, their first freaking claim was a fire loss. I'm like, I didn't get a fire loss for 5 years. How's that work? But the other thing too is our partners knew that you guys called us. You'd call Scott and I. We'd like, here's the macro, here's the parts that you need to make it work. So, but you know, for a guy that's just coming out and just getting his license and trying to figure out what he's going to do, you know, I've been saying this a lot in these podcasts as I've been going through them, that, you know, you train on the job, you learn what you learn. And if you don't take that when you're not working and apply it and continue, you know, look around your house, sketch your house, do whatever you got to do, get more training, go to Hague, go to whatever you got to do. If you don't keep your hands in that, then you lose it. And the next storm doesn't come along for 8 months. You've forgotten almost everything you learned during that first storm. It took me 3 or 4 years. It took me 3 or 4 years when I started before I really felt like I was proficient. You know, I've run a lot of claims, but my thing was I was a cat adjuster. So I got done in November, like from the first year to the second year, I got done in November and I didn't go back until August. So it was a huge freaking learning curve for the first half of the storm, just trying to remember the stuff that I knew when I walked away. So as a new guy, if you're not continually bettering yourself for the industry, then you might as well not do it.
You know how I figured I was making some gains was, you know, the vast computer that we started out with. You know, I mean, it wasn't the greatest computer, but I made well over $100,000 with that computer.
Got your money back.
Yeah. But how I started realizing that I might need something better, need to upgrade, and hey, my skills are actually coming along was the latency. You know, so you're typing on the computer, you're in Sketch, you know, and the computer has to wait. I'm like, you know what? I'm making money. You know, the claims are good. I think I'll probably make some more. So let me just go ahead and buy this you know, super gaming computer, right? So I bought the pretty tough computer. It's getting a little age to it now, but of course, you know, half of the latency that's coming now, I think, is engineered so that you buy a new computer. But that's a whole other conspiracy theory.
Which is true.
I don't know if I could prove it. I'm not smart enough to prove the exact reasons why, but there's something to it. I don't know, but
one of our guys that was a gamer that came through the school bought a gaming computer before he ever left. As soon as he got he's like, great, thank you very much. I'll give that to my kid. But he bought a gaming computer while he was there, and Scott completely set him all up with our stuff. And again, you know, like we told you guys, whatever that computer is a work computer.
Yeah.
You keep your personal stuff and all the rest of the things that you know, search online and all the rest of that somewhere else. If you got a computer, it's work. And if you're going to write it off, then use it for business. So,
I don't know. So I don't hear specific trick. I'll block the image, but if you take you know, one of these computers, they'll fold out back there, you know, and turn your steering wheel upside down. So when you park, you turn your steering wheel upside down, stick this in it, Bam, then you're good to
Wow.
go. And then you can take your Xactimate mobile device here, plug it, and prop this up here on top of the wheel, and use a wireless monitor or a second monitor program, and you got 2 monitors on your steering wheel.
Wow.
Yeah, and you can rock out like that.
Yeah. So do you try to complete a claim while you're still at the house? Not complete it, but get the majority of it done.
I try to. Try to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it took me a long time to get grounded in the basics, and thanks for not giving me all that information up front. Because I mean, you kind of have to fumble through it, and that's as much as it pains you not to give us that information, not to teach us, how to, the skill level 2 stuff. You have to live the skill level 1 stuff for a while before you can. The skill level 2 stuff will mean anything to you.
Yeah,
but I mean,
it doesn't matter what industry, whether you're a carpenter or a mechanic or whatever else, and if you don't learn the basics, then you can't jump to the. So many of our guys that graduated, you guys are all using the mobile app now, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, guy, I save so much time just taking the photo with my mobile app and being able to dictate my description on my photo, and I know exactly what it is." And
yeah, that one's got some issues though. And it's just slow, and man, it's real awkward if you're the insured's walking around with you or in the same room, or they showed you where the damage was, and you're in there. Okay, let me get a overview from this corner, overview from that corner, damaged area overview, and
you're still a camera guy.
Okay,
are you using your phone, or do you use the camera still?
Mostly the camera. Almost never the phone. I mean, I do. That's my backup.
Yeah,
but when you use your phone, the pictures are so large that it takes, even with the double compression, it takes a long time to upload and transfer, and you start to lose some of the data. If there's if it times out on the upload of any photo, you're going to have a blank spot or a black spot on your photo report. So
yeah,
I've got my photos set not to be too good and not to be too bad. They're adequate, and I mean, doggone it, they just, if there's a change or something they can't quite make out, and they're just going to have to take my word for what's on the description is what's there.
Right.
So if they ever say, well, I really can't see any damage there, I'm like, okay, let me zoom in, or I'll send you the raw photo or something. But here, and I take multiple, so and make sure they're seeing it.
And again, this gets back to having the experience, right?
Yeah.
Once your file reviewers and your managers and the companies you work for know you, and they know that you're doing a good job. If you say, "Yeah, I know that photo's blurry, but I'm telling you, I saw damage there," and your description of it is what it is, they're going to buy it. They're going to be okay.
And if it is questionable, then put a little blurb in the GLR about it. I mean, that's a living document.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, how many claims did you run last year?
Oh man, over 500. I think 5 something. I think gross from all the claim work was 214 from the claims I wrote last year.
Wow. And you were the guy that was going fishing. You were only going to work part-time. I don't want more than a couple claims a week. And because I'm here because I want to go fishing. I'm not really going to do this.
Oh, man. So last year was different, man. Last year I worked for 10 different firms. I had 10 1099s.
Wow.
Probably twice that number of carriers.
Uh-huh.
But just seeing what's out there, what's going on. I mean, I'll tell you, I mean, the firm I primarily work with now, they've got their stuff together.
Yeah.
They've got a process. Everything works. It fits. In any process, there's always some a little bit of friction for divergence, at least divergent thinkers, somebody that wants to do something a little bit off the guidelines. It's always a push to try to get through. But
yeah,
yeah.
And is that the company, since we're not using names, is that the company that wants descriptions to be vague?
No,
No, no, that's a different one.
no, that's I worked for them too, and they
Yeah.
they changed. They used to be really good, really reasonable, but they were too reasonable, and they got taken advantage of. If you're talking about the carrier,
Yeah.
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 So they were getting the old what for,
Right. Right.
and you know the contractor driven claims just expounded for that carrier uh, quite a bit because they smelled blood in the water,
Right.
But
Yeah, and that it's all cyclic, right? So
yeah, to
you
stay the course.
exactly.
Yeah. Look, I actually got in a little trouble. I think I got quiet fired. Actually, is that a thing?
Yeah.
Quiet quit, quiet quit. I got quiet fired. Where you just stop getting claims. But it happened prior to that 60 Minutes thing too.
Really?
This was I think there must be like carrier conventions. Bob's playing golf with George, and Steven is. They're all talking and like, oh yeah, we're doing this and that. And they make big changes across the industry. I mean, this is all conjecture. I have no basis for saying this. This is just that inverse. What are they not saying between the lines, kind of thing. But I think they've made some changes to what they want, and they're doing good. Actuarial science.
Yeah.
Actuarial science. Okay, they exist in two places that I know of, probably thousands more, but the biggest ones I see are, insurance carriers and the casinos.
Yeah.
So the casinos are very good at not making sure the house wins,
Correct.
And I think the actuarial science in Florida down there, they got it right. I think. I didn't do as good in Florida as I thought I was going to do after such a sizable hurricane and a big loss. Yeah, which is good and bad, but I really anticipated about double what I pulled back from Florida this last time. And a lot of that's due to the actuarial science. For instance, most deductibles are set at 1% of the insured value. So most of the damage I saw or actually 2% for the hurricane, 2% for hurricane for most houses. Now, if you had a really high dollar value house, they'd work with it a little bit, but
right.
They I think most of the damages were coming in around 1 to 1.5% on a lot of the claims. And of course, there's the division between what was flood and what was wind.
Right.
But I think the insurance carriers conglomerate got it right down there as far as what not to pay, how to keep from paying so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
And additionally, part of that actuarial science, I think, kind of bleeds over into the guidelines. So the guidelines, govern the initial claim submission. So those initial claim governance guidelines,
right,
really show what you can put in as far as the dollar value and repair methods, up front.
Right.
And I understand why the insurance carriers do it, but they're not in the business to lose money.
Yeah.
But,
well, during Katrina, right?
Yeah.
So when we were doing Katrina, they came out with guidelines that said, okay, you can't put overhead and profit on your claim.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, if all my claims are averaging 20 grand, that's another 4 grand. And that's going to push me, my fee schedule bumps up $150. And
right.
And I know I got 8 trades here where they're going to fix this thing. And I know what this is, but you're not letting me do that. And so, because I was working for the state run agency in Louisiana. during that storm, right?
Mm-hmm.
And 2 years later, there was a class action lawsuit because that's how they paid the insured, right? So they paid based on our estimates, so they didn't have overhead and profit.
Yeah.
There was a whole thing. They had to go through every one of those claims that were filed in Louisiana and then pay people that extra 20%. Now, do you think we got paid on that?
Oh, no.
No.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
No, exactly. So can I replace a tile roof that I know is 25 years old and isn't manufactured anymore? No.
No, you can't. You got to write it up for
you got to
repair.
repair it. Is that roof going to get replaced down the line? Probably. But it comes back to, well, yeah, is that a bummer? Yes. Is that actuarial science so the insurance company wins? Yes. But if I'm running claims, how many claims did I run? What was my gross? And was that enough?
There you go. Yeah.
Right? So that's the bottom line. It doesn't matter what they're doing over there. It just matters what we're doing. And I think too, this is going to be a sidetrack a little bit if you don't mind, but I think
your show, boss.
I think too that the whole idea of the cyclic way that the industry runs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're lowering fee schedules. Okay, we're doing these things. Well, it kind of makes sense because if you're not going to climb anything but a 512 or lower roof and they have to pay $250, then that's going to hurt us who climb roofs in the overall, because the insurance company is going to go, my loss adjustment expense is going up, so I have to take it away from somewhere. And it used to be like metal roofs were a great example. If the metal roof had a dent on it, I got to buy the metal roof. Well, now it's all cosmetic, right? So we're not going to buy those. Same with concrete tile roofs and those kind of things that, you mentioned this a couple minutes ago. If they start getting taken advantage of, they're going to change the rules.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So if every adjuster's out there going, woohoo, all I need is 25% damage and I can buy a concrete tile roof for 40 grand. And there's not real damage, but the adjusters are throwing those on their estimates.
Yeah.
Insurance company's going to come back and go, nope, you just can't do that.
Yeah.
And, and then you look at all these Facebook pages and everybody's bitching and moaning and groaning. Well, if you can't sketch and I have to buy an Eagle View on every claim, that's $60. If you're not going to climb the freaking roof and I got to pay another $250 for a ladder assist, there's $300. So the insurance companies, from your actuarial science, right, is looking at that going, well, if 60% costs an extra $300, I'm going to take $50 off of everybody. And then those of us who are out there climbing 10, 12 pitch roofs, 2 stories in the freaking air, are going, damn, that sucks.
So I was the second adjuster for a Milton claim. First adjuster came to this house for the Helene claim. And Helene, of course, did the flood damage, and there was some tiles that were messed up on the roof, but not as bad as what happened after Milton. Waterfront Florida property, probably about a $4 million total property. There's G-Wagons out front, nice cars, everything's a nice boat on his lift.
Right.
You got a double pull. And he was telling me, the owner was telling me, he says, the other adjuster wouldn't get up there. Well, it's tough to do a double pull on a tile, so I get it, but I got some tricks. Brought my little pitch hopper block up there and set the ladder on that. So I would have distributed the weight. And, it is sketchy, but you got to do it if you want to buy it. You got to prove the damage. I mean, just that simple. If you think you've got enough proof of the damage from the eve of the first story, then go ahead. But
right.
Maybe I overkill. I don't know, but he's like, yeah, the other adjuster wouldn't get up there. He's like, man, that roof was dangerous. I'm like, what's he talking about? So I get up there. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is pretty sketchy. You think it's 6 pitch, but she's starting to get up high. You get the little like, oh, dang. The 6 pitch at on 3 stories up is not the same as a 6 pitch on the ground.
No, true.
Now, why is it the closest I've ever come to death have been on 6 pitches? I mean, it's that angle where you think you can trust it. You got this, and one wrong step, like, oh, whoa, now I'm off balance a bit. It's a little sketchy. But this guy's tile, the rows of tile were just offset and displaced. And when you step on a tile roof, you have to put. I'm over 200 pounds, so you got to step on that overlap.
Yeah.
So where 2 tiles are touching, 2 tiles, that's where you step, and it's on the edge of one tile.
Yeah.
But I'm like, nah, I don't break tiles. I'm good. I got up there and first one crack. Well, let me add that one to the broken tiles list. Oops, sorry. I mean, but I'm not a tile breaker.
Right.
Even it heavier weight, I'm not. I just take my time. I go slowly. I step where I'm supposed to. Don't step too close to the valley where there's just one tile supporting it.
Right.
Don't step too close to the ridge where there's no support or questionable support from the furring strips or whatever, or into the nailer board, or the mortar bed that's in there. But all this guy's tiles were offset, and like the whole thing shifted, the whole field. And I'm like, I see what the other adjuster was talking about now. Maybe I shouldn't have been so, I know everything, but it's gonna be fun getting off of this thing too. And
right.
Yeah, but of course they wrote that up for repair. I laid it out nice and neat, and I'm like, oh, come on, man, this is if there was ever one, I am not reaching on this one.
Yeah.
Some tile from Timbuktu somewhere that hadn't been discontinued in America for a couple
40,
of decades,
20
almost.
years, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm like, you're buying this tile, man. I already checked the boneyard; it's not there. Here's the inventory. You're buying it. Well,
and again, they're going to buy it on the back end.
Yeah, and I have to touch the file 3 times to do the smart thing.
Yeah,
because a lot of adjusters have just jacked it up so much. I mean, it's our fault.
Yeah,
for reaching, for doing things that are questionable ethics, and that's one thing I think we really have to focus on is being ethical people. And there's a reason why we have to go through the background checks that we do to even get a license.
Right. Right.
I think if we start crossing it, it hurts the whole industry.
Well, and that's the greed factor, right? And if my cousin Billy Bob went to Irma and made $150,000, then I can go out there and make that kind of money too. And,
yeah.
And well, I'm just gonna take that extra step. I'm gonna walk in that 12 by 12 room and call it 20 by 20. Those are the ethical things that you're talking about of just paying attention. What's the damage? What's actual physical damage due to this peril? And let me pay for it.
Yeah.
And again, it comes back to it literally after Irma is when they quit paying for tile roofs.
Yeah.
Right? Because every Tom, Dick, and Harry that was an adjuster was just 25% rule. I'm buying the tile roof. I'm buying the tile roof. They would send out on Facebook. They sent out, somebody put it up on Facebook of like 40 different tiles that were no longer manufactured.
Yeah.
So these guys would jump up there and they'd turn it over and they'd say, oh, that's an Eden. Look at great. Yeah, I'm going to buy the roof. Well, that's what the roofer's going to do. That's not what the adjuster is supposed to do.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, it is what it is. But
oh man, Guy, I got to tell you, I hope it doesn't put a damper on the thing here. But I was quite disheartened. A lot of it's guideline stuff, but I was quite disheartened with the way we were received down in Tampa here this last time. Like, so I went to get a haircut at the barber shop, and I've got my little computer on my lap, and I'm trying to close the last one out while I'm getting a haircut in line, And yeah, I hear people talking, barbershop talk, like, oh man, my insurance adjuster came by. I said, yada, yada, yada. I said, it's not covered because of the flood, because of this and that. Really didn't want to do anything for me. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Well, it's my turn. I get in the chair. Uh, Barber says, hey, what do you do? I'm like, well, I'm an insurance adjuster. She's like, shh, don't say that too loud in here. I'm like,
Really?
I'm like, yeah, exactly. Really. I said, normally I am quite well received. I'm here trying to hand you a check. Why is it, that you're not, hey buddy, how you doing? I'm glad you're here. I mean, most of the people are, but
Right.
maybe this is just a pocket of strangeness here.
Well, it started with Helene.
Yeah.
Right. And not to get into conspiracy theories or right or left or any of the other bull, but it started with Helene and people actually going online and saying, FEMA only gave me $750.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
No, dumbass. They gave you $750 to go buy some food.
Yeah.
You'll get more later. But you got
to thank you.
Yeah. No, it's and I've got a text. We had several of our guys that are up in the Asheville area. And I got text from one of our guys that's fairly new, got out at the beginning of the year. Good adjuster though, and really, really, ethical kind of guy. And he went to an insurance house, did the whole job. It wasn't just flood, it was wind too. So he was able to do a bunch of stuff. And when he got done, guy drives up in a truck behind him and locks him from the driveway and gets out. It's like the brother or something like that. And he goes, and by the way, you're going to be buying this and this and this. And Justin's like, I can buy what I can buy. I mean, here's what the damages are. Yeah, I'm going to put in for a roof and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Well, no, you're going to do this. And just was like hardcore. And Justin was like, I finally had to say to the guy, I'm going to get in my truck and I am going to ram your truck if you don't get out of the way.
Yeah.
And I think partially because of social media and where we were when those storms hit.
Yeah.
So much got out that was so negative that my cousin's telling me this and I didn't get paid. And that 60-minute thing came out right at the beginning of that storm.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that couldn't have been any good for us.
That was kind of like, I forgot to talk about my quiet firing. Yeah. And I'm sorry if you're listening, boss, but
talk about it.
No, so some people or some carriers have started putting another panel together for people to take a second look at the file, before it goes to the check writing authority, which is the DA. So I mean, it's another wicket you have to go through and process. And those they are so objective. They don't know you. They don't know your work ethic or your background or what your capabilities are.
Right.
Just what they're seeing on paper there. And that extra check kind of inhibits effective communication between the field and the desk. I was instructed to take out some of the writing on my thing, and I was like, yeah, it's really not right. I mean, this is what it's going to take to repair it. You're saying try this first, but it's not going to work. So, I put inexact analysis. I put the following verbiage was removed from the loss report. I said, the file has been duplicated. And please, if you're watching this, do not do what I do. Do not do it. I put, the file has been duplicated for inevitable revision to the original submission.
And you didn't get any more claims, did you?
I didn't. Fast forward 3 months, I fixed that one, though. Exactly like I said it was going to be.
Right.
But it has to go through 3 people and make people, I mean, when that happens and somebody's like, okay, they're playing games, I'm getting a lawyer. Yeah. I completely understand the insurance perspective, and I'm not against them doing it if that's what happens. But
hence the reason for public adjusters, that why you might need a public adjuster. Yeah, for sure. It's funny that in Florida, there was a couple of the carriers that were doing what that 60-minute carrier was doing. And on this storm, they were like, if you see it and it needs damage, pay for it. We're not changing your file. You see it, and they're like, I'm not getting caught in that game. So it goes both ways, right?
Yeah.
It goes both ways. And I have a really, really dear family friend that's in Bradenton, right on the water.
Yeah.
Big multi-million-dollar house. And they called
They
me
have
up.
they have room to pull a camper in their driveway?
Yeah, no. And there'd have to be $1 million camper if they let you. So they called me up right after the storm, and they said, what do I do? And I heard all these stories. And I said, listen, you wait for your adjuster to show up. You wait for your adjuster to do his job, and then send me the estimate, and I'll tell you if he sucked or not. Right? Because they were like, should I get a public adjuster? And I'm like, no, because if you get a public adjuster, that claim is going to take a long time to close. So don't.
Man. Yeah, that's true.
And so their adjuster did a really 90% job. Right? He did a good job. And they came back, they bought this roof, of course, it's a multi-million-dollar house, and they pay a lot of money. But when the contractor came back, it was off maybe 10 grand or something like that. And he called me
across the big property. Yeah.
And he goes, well, I'm getting ripped off. I'm like, no, you're not. Just have your contractor call the company. 10 grand is easy to fix.
Oh, yeah.
10 grand is easy to fix on an $80,000 roof, right?
Yeah.
10 grand is easy to fix.
Yeah.
And they got it done. The roofer got it. I mean, the house is already completely restored at this point. But had he gotten a public adjuster in the beginning, that would have sucked. And like I told him, if your adjuster turns in a bad product and the company starts standing on it, then the next time you say is, do I need to get a public adjuster? And somebody will show up at your house that's going to take care of you.
Yeah.
Because the company knows if somebody's going that direction, we need to take care of this file before it gets there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's sick. Like I think I said this already, but we're in a cycle right now where everybody hates their insurance and everybody hates all of the rest of that. But that will cycle out to where they understand that our job, we're the guy, like you said, we're the guys with the checks.
Yeah.
I got the check. If I do a good job for you, you're going to be happy. And we just need to get our industry and the adjusters that are coming out up to that par. So,
I mean, I've been doing it for a while. I can talk my way through most damages, and most causes for damage, and even damage caused from here and over to here. The point here, I can talk to the insured and educate them through that. But if you're just starting out, I think I took somebody out the other day, for a ride along, and one of the things. They weren't so experienced in construction or roof methods. They'll pick it up. Just talk to the roofers. But my advice to them, and this probably wouldn't go for everybody, but for this person, and them, I told them, said, look, just tell the insured that you don't have all the answers, and tell them the important thing here is that I get coverage opened up for you, because and just tell them just like this. There's going to be inevitable differences between my estimate and the contractor's actual cost of repairs.
Yep.
So don't worry. There's a system in place for you so that the insured doesn't have to absorb that delta.
Yep.
But as far as not knowing the exact answer, it's okay. You don't have to. You just can't pretend that you do and try to line out the repair.
Yes.
Just be honest. Be genuine.
Exactly.
People will be accepting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. For years, dude, my thing was my estimate is not going to match your contractor's estimate. Period. End of story. I'm hoping I get close. Right.
Now, so I took a different approach to that about 6, 8 months after VAS. I'm coming down here to the coast, and everybody's got a roofer that's hey, here's the issue. We've got some wind damaged shingles here. That's fine. Let's get the roof. And I was like, I'm getting these supplements, and when I got a supplement, I thought, I interpreted that as I did a bad job. Like the contractor wasn't able to make his nut off of what I allowed, and it kind of hurt my feelings a little bit. And then well, there were some that were kind of over the top.
Right.
$1,100 on a roof that you could per square for
Right.
for a simple gable, that you could reach up and touch the eaves. But yeah, those guys didn't last too long. As a matter of fact, I think a lot of them are in jail. No names on this one, but if you're in the coastal Carolina area, you probably know who I'm talking about. But I took it as kind of an affront to my process. I'm like, man, I'm doing everything I know to do. I mean, I could build a roof for this. I mean, actual cost of a roof, what is it like probably less than 300 if you're doing a couple of roofs a week as a contractor. Your actual cost of there's plenty of overhead for you to get there.
Right.
But as far as a supplement, I forgot what I was going to say, man.
Well, you were talking about getting a supplement and thinking that you did a bad job because your estimate was off.
So I started looking at it from the opposite direction. What do I have to put on this file in order to keep from getting a supplement? So a lot of times I'd start asking the roofer, hey, what are you looking at to get a square? I'm like, oh man, probably like 550. I mean, what's your supplemental cutoff point? I'm like, all right, I'll get there. And it worked great for the longest. I mean, hey, most roofs, if you add flashing and stuff, you can get them up about 650 a square.
Right.
Which is plenty of money. But then high charges, steep charges, or if you got a different type of shingle or something like a 40-year, 50-year, it adds a little bit. Let me make a note real quick. Actuarial science, letters. Yeah, just approach at it from the end, and sometimes I would just show up. Would have already ordered the roof report. I'd already dropped my macro in there. All I got to do is just take the estimate and say, hey, what are we looking at here? We buying this roof? You start knowing the roofers. Who's reaching. Yeah. Boy, you have some of those. But
when I just literally just got done saying this, so people are going to hear it more than once. But I just put a roof on Scott's house, on the Willenberg house.
Yeah.
Right. So I measured it. I wrote with the estimate, materials only, called ABC, ordered the materials, found a contractor that works for the roofing companies. The roofing companies were like 18 to 20 grand, something like that.
Yeah.
Right. and I got the roof done for 13. Right. Because I bought the materials and I hired the crew myself. Yeah. Sidetrack. I'm like, how much you want a square? 130 a square, put it on. I'm like, great, perfect. And so knowing that that contractor has that 7 in it, right? If my estimate doesn't have starter row on it, but I gave you 15% waste, you probably got enough money for that starter row. And that's the conversation to be having prior to supplement or, during the, look, if I give you 15% waste, is that going to take care of the starter row for you?
Yeah.
And
right.
And a good roofer, right? One that isn't a salesman that was a car salesman last week. A good roofer's going to know what that is. Just like you said, you're going to say how much a square, and he's going to say I need 600 a square because that's what. Right now we had a storm, costs are up, labor's up, everything's up. I need 600 a square, and you're like, okay, let me figure that out. And we can, that's the thing I loved about being with the contractor up front. Because if I knew what he was looking for, I could give it to him, or at least get close.
Yeah. I'd show up with a completed estimate in hand, like, hey, this is where I'm at. So I got you at 620 a square. He's like, nah, I'm not supplementing you. I'm like, all right, well, let's go look at it and make sure everything on this estimate fits. You know, because on the phone call when you called me, you couldn't tell me if it had drip edge or not. You know,
right?
You couldn't tell me if it had ridge vent or if the pipe jacks were lead or rubber boots or what. So let's go look at it. You know, okay, no drip edge. Hey, bud, I got to take that off the estimate. We good? It's like, yeah.
Yep.
So we're like, it's going to go back on for code. I'm like, not since 2021 over here.
Yeah, right.
But it's got to meet the manufacturer's requirements for warranty. I'm like, well, that's a gray area, bud. I mean, what's the insurance carrier really concerned with the warranty of the roof? Those are two separate issues, two separate protection measures. They're not mutually inclusive. So code, not warranty.
And knowing they're making 30% pure profit, it's easy to fudge it here and there. And one last thing, and we need to get off here. But one last thing is supplements are a numbers game, right?
Oh yeah,
just like everything else. So if I'm a roofer, I'm going to supplement every single claim. If I get 3 out of 10, I made a little extra cash.
You've got another YouTube personality that is really like focused on the supplement game, like increasing it, saying what to say, knowing what to say.
Really?
She's doing great.
Yeah.
She's geared towards the contractor.
The contractor getting more, but it's a game. Yeah. And you're going to get some of it, and no, you're not going to get others of it. So it's kind of unfortunate that certainly when I started, it was like, what's the cost per square to fix this roof in most roofs in this area? Back in my day, dude, it was $150 a square, right? So 150 a square, I'm like, great, I got a 30 square roof. This estimate should be about $6,000. Everybody's happy and run down the road, right? And no matter what that number is, if you kind of know what squares are and what the roofers are telling you what they're charging per square and getting per square, then you can make that work. And there doesn't have to be the supplement game. But like that YouTube personality you're talking about, because I know who it is. That's part of the reason the actuarial science is coming up with the insurance company, and it's part of the reason that we adjusters aren't getting as much money, and it's part of the reason that blah 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 all the way down the line.
I kind of approach this a little differently. I'm learning here, and this is a different situation than I'm used to. The current layout of the framework that we're dealing with right now, and I'm approaching it differently here. So my idea here is, even if I don't get the money on the front end, that's okay. I'm financially stable, but I kind of like doing this. I mean, it's what I do. It's what I do for a hobby and fun and work. But maybe I'm psycho. I'm not sure.
You are.
I'm all right.
I knew you were.
But I just like to work. But I got to stay busy. But I think my approach to this now is maybe I'll go down to Florida again. I actually am going after Christmas, and assuming I still have a job after this podcast.
Right. I didn't use your last name, so you're good.
But assuming I still have a job after this podcast after Christmas here, I'm gonna go back down and do some cleanup. It's an hourly rate. Every one of those ampersands versus the plus or the minus that I got to go through and look at to see the price value, because it's not listed in the rough draft format on the PA's estimates. You kind of have to know exactly what the values might be. Might do some little keystroke type ins to make sure that everything's in there. But I'm going to be billing for $120 an hour, I think. Is that okay to say?
Yeah. No, dude, cleanup is like huge education. Yeah. Huge education, because you're doing all of that. You're the person-to-person negotiation, the estimate negotiation, the investigation of why did you ask for that? And how does that fit into what I have? And
Right.
and all of the rest of that stuff. And I didn't do a lot of it because I was one of those guys, give me my 150 claims and I'm the first guy out, because I was always going to the next storm.
Yeah.
You know, if I had 20 claims left and I saw there was a freaking hailstorm coming, I just hauled ass, got those 20 claims done so I could get to the next one.
Yeah.
So, but the couple times I did do cleanup, I did clean up at Hurricane Ike. And it was awesome, you know, to be able to have your estimate and their estimate. And just like you said, hey, well, why is this? How come this is? And how do we come to an agreement that you, roofer, whatever, contractor, is making a living? You got to be making a living. But you're not going to gouge for it.
Right.
You know, go do that with some other adjuster that doesn't know what he's talking about. But
I've heard it said, that anybody that says, they can't use Xactimate pricing to make money, well,
yeah,
I've worked for another firm here, and he's like, nah, the honest ones can make plenty of money using Xactimate. He said, if they start saying that, that's a red flag,
Yeah.
Xactimate pricing is not accurate on this or that. Well, a lot of time there's
every now and then
issues. Yeah.
Yeah.
But for everything, you're saying, no, Xactimate doesn't have the right price in there for this.
Yeah. Well, and they spend a lot of money making sure that that's pretty close.
Yeah.
They figure that out before they've done it.
Well, I got fired again. Time for another story.
Go ahead. One more.
Yeah. So I got fired again, kind of quiet fired again from, we've mentioned this carrier before here, but, down in South Carolina, there was a contractor, and I wasn't so sure he was scrupulous or not. And pretty sure he filed a complaint on a DUI complaint on me. But he did a job for an Old Navy vet, and this guy's he's still lucid, but his lucidity's in question. He's an old guy. And I get a supplement. I'm like, man, they put the roof on that house, but the gutter's still hanging down. I'm like, what in the devil's going on here? I'm going through the place, a couple times. I get a supplement, and I'm like, how about you fix the gutter on the house before we even talk about this supplement? She's like, what? Yeah, the gutter's hanging off the house. I just drove by there today. I said, you guys going to take care of this guy or what? I think turns out the old guy says, I wanted to do the gutters. He did a real great job.
Right.
But there were some things on the estimate that were reaching, quite a bit so. And for legal reasons, I don't want to get too in depth into it, but I'm like, okay, I'm coming to re-inspect, and so I took his estimate with what he said, and I took my pencil and put it on that line item, took a picture, aimed at the roof, took the picture, and it's not like he says in his estimate. What he said was done wasn't done. I'm like, and you're asking for, and this was another one that was, I don't know how they got the estimate up so much, but they, it was exorbitant, like well over $1,000 a square for, a low roof.
Right.
It really wasn't that complex. It didn't need it. Yeah.
And the carrier fired you?
Well, I got into it with this guy. And I shouldn't have. Matter of fact, I think I might have sent you an excerpt of what I sent them and said, is this too much? And you were like, yeah, shut up, Will. Let it go. Let it go.
Let it go.
Sometimes, I was trying to do the right thing, but it wasn't really the right thing.
You and I have the same kind of personality. It's like, if I know it's right, then it's right. But so many times in this business, we've got to just step back from that and say, it is what it is. Whatever you want, that's what I'm going to give you.
I'm in a state of flux now. I mean, with the guidelines being what they are on the upfront restrictions for the guidelines that prevent me from writing a full and complete estimate, not a PA style estimate, but a full and complete estimate that covers all the bases. Which probably wouldn't get a supplement. I mean, Yeah,
Hey,
but
dude, going back down to Florida to do cleanup, though, you're going to
yeah,
get to buy a lot of freaking roofs that didn't get
yeah,
bought the first time out,
yeah,
right? Because that's what the whole cleanup thing's about. They didn't pay it up front, but when you get that file needs to get closed, or it's going to go to court,
yeah. Well,
right? So, and they'll decide what they want to go to court with.
yeah. I mean, I was an old Army recruiter, so I mean, I can sell.
So
But
I can do it. All right,
but
brother. I'm gonna have to
yeah,
let you go, or you and I are gonna talk for like 3 hours. I think we're probably like an hour and 20
yeah. We'll let
minutes.
Joe Rogan have those long ones.
Yeah, exactly. We'll
You
just
don't have to
do
go all
we'll
Joe
do
Rogan on
we'll
me.
do multiple ones. Will,
All
thank you
right.
so much, everybody that's out there
Guy,
listening.
thanks.
I hope you guys enjoyed what you're hearing. Again, I still don't know about this whole podcast thing, but I think there's like a like button. If you liked it, push like, and then maybe I get 2 cents or something like that. So anyways, I hope everybody that's listening to this enjoyed it, and we'll come back another time.
Check out more Adjuster Stories with Guy Grand right here.